Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About Live Shopping, a series dedicated to unraveling the intricacies of video commerce in all its various formats. I'm your host, Cynthia Nelson, three-time entrepreneur, Forbes contributor, investor, and advisor. Today, we're talking to Nicolas Baillliache, CEO of eStreamly. Good afternoon, Nicolas, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon, Cynthia. So excited to be here.
First up, I need to know the story about eStreamly because there's always this weird winding road how people get to where they are, especially in video commerce. So tell us your story.
Yeah, the story is started in 2018, I will say. I I mean, I will say that I've been always in sales pretty much all my career. My parents were entrepreneur, and then in 2018, I was trying to figure out a way to bring people at the center of commerce. And I went to a blockchain hackathon in Atlanta because that's where I'm based. And I met this lady, Smita Komareddy, who was, we were like pairing up and we ended up being paired up. And then we were talking about, this notion of like, hey, it's very hard for a brand or a solopreneur or, anyone that has a product to actually get retail space and shelf space. And so I was like, how do we help people to get in front of audience differently? And if you think about, so I come from a background of the food industry myself. Really, when you think about like just a food product, the only space you have to communicate your value is around the packaging, of your product, pretty much. And then social media, really the two real place. And so I was like, there got to be figured out a way of doing that differently or giving an opportunity for folks to do that. And so she loved the idea of like trying to bring people at the center of commerce. And so we looked at different things. Initially, we looked at blockchain,
Mhm.
and then we looked at VR, AR, and then camera 360s, and then we'll look at all the technology you can think of. Made thousands of interviews trying to figure out which was the path. And then I think it was in 2020, December 2020, there was an article somewhere, maybe in the New York Times or somewhere that's saying, hey, in China, this thing of live streaming is taking off. And we're like, oh, wow, this is very interesting. And then 3 weeks later, Smita had a prototype saying, hey, I think we can do this. And I'm like, oh, wow. So, well, let's do it. Let's build a company around it. And that's how Extremely was born, with the first line of code being written the first week of January of 2021. So,
Wow. So you are an early, or I would say not an early entrance to streaming, but definitely one of a lot that are out there. So what is different between your live streaming platform and there's, a myriad of other ones that are out there?
yeah. So, as you say, there's a myriad of people doing out there. And what we wanted to do differently is we wanted to think, what are people going to need, not today or tomorrow, but like maybe in 3 4 years 5 years from now, what's going to be the fundamental thing that's going to make it very differently, and it's very hard to build, because I think we are
Yeah.
grinders, and it's not that we love to grind, but it's a grind in some way, right? In many
Yeah.
aspects, like building a company or something. And
Yeah.
so we've been, this notion of, what we see right now for the most part is you have a video, and then like 99% of all the solution out there, what they do is a redirect to cart.
Yeah.
So you click on the product, and then depending on the integration, so you got some great integration like Bamboozer, Fireworks does that very well. It brings you the website, the video will follow you all the way up to the website. But like if you're on social, now that you have to jump through different oops to get to actual the cart, and then you lose the video content and all that. And so we've been saying like, hey, how do we make the video the actual place of commerce, as opposed to bring the user to a commerce experience?
Mhm.
And so that was the fundamental idea of we say, oh, we should do payment. And then from doing payment and iterating with customer, and we started to realize that, well, payment is one thing, but you have also to display inventory. You also have to have user management.
Yeah.
You also have to have product feeds,
Mhm.
and the myriad of things that user need. And no, so today, Extremely is becoming this very deep e-commerce integration that live in top of your e-com stack, where each video become like a point of sales. And so, which means that that video can be embedded to your website, but it can be on the New York Times, it can be,
Everything.
on
Yeah.
social media, wherever it is. The user never have to leave the video to actually shop.
Right.
All the interaction happen on the shop. But the thing is, every interaction is actually backward to your ecom. So you know exactly who is doing what, why, and how. But the shopping, the payment, all that belongs to you. So that's what we have been building. And building payment on video is has been the most challenging thing I
Yeah.
think I ever done. And it's
Yeah.
still a challenge, and we're still not where we would like to be, but we're making some really interesting progress. We have some amazing partner, like we're a partner with Visa. We have partnership with different payment companies that are really helping us in making this a reality. So it's really exciting.
What type of customers are using it? Are they, you kind of, like you said, you started out in the food side, right? But what are the types of clients that are using it? Are they Fortune 100s? Are they SMBs? Where is there a sweet spot, I should say, for what you're doing?
Yeah, so the reality is company that are most likely to have their own, like I would say the Fortune 500, the bigger company, the big enterprise company, they tend to want to own their checkout experience, which is
Yeah,
just perfect and
normal.
great,
Yeah.
normal. And typically those customers are perfect for, I would say, the top class streaming solution, which are Bambuser Fireworks over there, in my point of view. Where our sweet spot is mostly mid market. So, well, because not only we offer video commerce solution and simulcast broadcasting across social, we also offer some of these other tools that are fundamental necessity for driving your live shopping, which is the SMS notification, and some of these other things that you may need, like from a marketing perspective and from a support perspective. So really, we're the mid-market size. So typically, our companies are either on Magento or on Shopify,
Mhm.
50 to 100 million in revenue. And that's kind of the sweet spot for us. What we found is interesting is, for a reason that I still don't quite get, and I think it's related to actually the fact that we have in video checkout, we have a lot of DIY customer. So people that are manufacturing a product on a very um, limited numbers,
Mhm.
and that are kind of an ingredients for a user to do something else with it. So
Almost
not like
like Etsy seems like a great, like that would be a great customer. They're all kind of DIY and small vendors and, creating specific products for clients. That seems like a really interesting potential integration.
Yeah, so I will say, so it's on paper it sounds an interesting integration. What we've learned is, like, we work with brands, right? So we work with brands that have, that are mid-size. So like if Etsy was our customer, that would be a great integration.
Yeah.
But Extremely is not the solution for an Etsy seller
Oh, the
to.
small guys, right.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
not to market. I mean, there's like
Yeah, yeah,
myriad
yeah,
of $5 per
yeah,
month Shopify plugin that you can use, and
yeah,
that's great for you.
yeah.
That's what I will suggest.
I want to switch for a second. CES is happening this week and NRF is coming up next week as well. What do there's AI, EIO, as I say. It's like it's everywhere you want to be. But what are you seeing as opportunities for new integrations or new technologies integrating into the platform you already have? What's kind of next?
Yeah. So, it's funny because we were at TechCrunch on the battlefield with a disrupt company, and everyone was talking AI, and we almost felt as wearing a T-shirt. We don't do AI,
Yeah,
we do people. But at the end of the day, obviously AI is something that we're currently looking at, as any company are doing. It's not something that we are actively looking at adding into a roadmap, I will say in 2024, or maybe toward the end of the year. But If you think about AI, I think there's some really awesome opportunity. Um, if you think about live shopping, video commerce, there's really two main roadblocks that prevent users to actually, explode on these channels. Is one is the quality of the content creation and
Yeah.
the challenge of creating content, and then the second is the being just consistent, right? Consistency about creating the content. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I'm gonna do it one show, and oh, it didn't work." And it's like, well, but did you only post one time to Instagram? Probably not. So that's it's very is a reason for that.
Yeah.
Um, but the reality is, what can AI do in this context? I think it's really interesting, right? I think there's a lot of hope that video commerce can be done, or like video generation could be done
Yeah.
through AI.
Yeah.
I personally have seen some of those pilots. Yes, it's great, but I don't think it's going to replace a person and creating a content where you have like you create a script and you go down. I don't think that's going to be. Now, one of the things, so we host a podcast, and our podcast called the Live E-commerce Podcast, and our number one episode is Are You Afraid of Going Live? Our number two episode is something around Is the Fear of Going Live, or something, another title around fear and live stream. So I think what's interesting and what's been coming up in China is the notion of avatar.
Yeah.
And so if your fear is actually going live, and it's because you don't want to expose yourself, but you are fine with telling your story and saying that, is there a place for avatars to play up? And actually in China, there's more and more live stream avatars that is being done. So I think that's an interesting place where AI can play a big role, in my point of view. The other part is around, obviously, the chat moderation. I think it's like analyzing the sentiment of who are the chatter, moderating the chat, helping you with the moderation of the chat, and then the finally is like the product tagging, right? Like if you're Nike, you have thousands of UGC videos, you have no time, or you have no will of hiring people to just figure it out, like who is actually posting what product on which video, and especially those video are like very short timed. So having an AI saying, "Hey, this is this product that's being shown," I think that has tons of value, and I think those are the three things that we're personally looking at, uh, to the distance, because that's not something we are currently implementing. We are really focusing more on the technology and the payment, the checkouts. That's really where our focus is at the moment for us.
And you mentioned it just really quickly, but I'd love for you to talk about just, why you started your podcast, and as another podcaster, one podcaster to another, why you started your podcast, and what you're what kind of guests you have, where to
Yeah.
listen in as well. So give yourself a plug here.
Yeah, so we started the podcast, the live e-commerce podcast, 2 years ago, and it was at the realization that we were talking with Brian, and they were saying like, "Oh, it's so hard to create content." I'm like, and I'm not coming from a content generation perspective myself, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how hard could that be, And so we say, you know what, let's go through the exercise ourselves and do a podcast and realize like what it takes to be consistent. How do you build an audience? What's working, what's not working? And it was also a way at the time, like 2 years ago, there's really no content out there being put on video commerce, live stream shopping strategy. And so the type of guests that we had are really around like either brand that have been successful on video commerce, either professional like you that have I will say a 360 view around the live shopping and have different perspective, people coming from China and how the the things are going there. But we also had people that have more, how can SEO play a role in your strategy? How do you think about creating a playbook, like a blueprint? So all the different steps, because at the end of the day, I think you know, it was one of your guests that was saying that, right? In 2021, people were, it was the year of the POC, right? And
Yeah.
I kind of really agree with that. The, the thing is, I think people have to think back, like when blogging was not a thing and started to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there was brand that were coming to, I mean, like technology company like the HubSpot and all those, they were coming to you and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
you have to spend 5 to 10 hours a week to write blogs, and then
Right.
you're going to see a benefit in 6 months from now.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, are you crazy? That's
I'm not
never
gonna
gonna
happen.
do.
It's
We don't
never
have
gonna
the
happen.
time.
Yeah.
We don't have the money.
Yeah.
And guess what? Like 10 years forwards, everyone is having a blog. Everyone
Yeah.
is writing content. And
Yeah.
now we even have AI to help us out to do that.
Yes.
So I will say that right now, when we talk to a brand, we say, hey, let's create a channel. Let's discuss about how do we create a strategy. There's a lot of touch points.
Yeah.
There is a lot of things to think about, and the one-time thing is not going to cut it. It's really about creating that consistency, creating the right strategy. And so people are like, well, I want to do one or two, but we're really, I think it's about the channels and creating a channel and a long time experience. And I think, I think there is something that's going to I will say AI is going to help us in a really great way in the video commerce space. Is that it's the Gartner report that was published early this year that was saying that by 2026, I think 50% of all search is going to be gone
Yeah.
because it's going to be all on chat,
Yeah.
through chat GPT and so forth. So all that's organic search. So how are you going to replace that? So are you going to allow yourself to be fully dependent on Amazon or TikTok because TikTok is going to be big?
Yeah.
Or do you want to own your own channel? And if you don't build your audience now, right?
Someone else
And
will.
someone else will, and that audience, and so that's the play we're saying. It's like it's not playing the fear or anything, but that's kind of the reality. The world is changing, e-commerce is changing every day, and AI has a lot of great benefit, but one of the bad benefit is that it's going to consolidate power on Amazon and TikTok. So how and Walmart obviously. So I think if you wanna keep remaining relevant in that space with your own brand, you have to create your own audience and own your audience, not really let that owned by someone else.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This is really informative. And where can people reach you? Give us your email address and your website.
Yeah, well, they can. Our website is estreamy.com, well, ESTREAMLY, extremely.com. And they can chat with us there. And they can find us on the live e-commerce podcast as well. That is on any podcast player out there.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.